Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for this special call with Tony Khan to discuss the upcoming Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view live from the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. Just a few quick housekeeping items in the interest of time and to give opportunities to as many people as possible. We kindly ask that you refrain from asking two-parted questions and please try to keep your questions focused on Death Before Dishonor and the ROH brand. I'll turn it over to Tony for some opening thoughts and then we'll open the lines for questions. Tony, go ahead.
Hey, thank you very much, Danny. I really appreciate it. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this call. I'm very excited about Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor. It's going to be a great show. As we saw last night, it's an incredible environment. Last night was the very first AEW event I've ever produced in the 2300 Arena, and tomorrow will be the first Ring of Honor show I've ever done there. Now, the difference is AEW had never been there in the history of the company. Ring of Honor does have a great tradition. It's done some great events in the 2300 Arena, and in general has a much longer history and some great things we can touch upon. And certainly tomorrow is going to be an exciting event. I'm very excited to talk to you about it. There's been some injuries in AEW and also some things in Ring of Honor with injuries that have affected the card, in particular injuries to champions, several injuries to champions, which I can elaborate on as we talk. But there's also some great matches that I'm really excited about. Big championship fights, including both the World Championship matches. I think the vignette for Hechicero versus Bandito got a lot of people buzzing, but the wrestling they're going to do in the ring will also have people buzzing tomorrow, because this is going to be a great World Championship match. There's been a great rivalry that's simmered between these two. This has been building since Ring of Honor's Supercard of Honor earlier this year. We had a great Supercard event. One of the best wrestling matches of the year was Bandito defending the Ring of Honor World Championship versus the Alpha, Konosuke Takeshita, another one of the very top wrestlers in the world. They had an incredible match, battling it out at Supercard for over 30 minutes. And at the end, Hechicero, Takeshita's stablemate in certainly one of the great groups in professional wrestling, the Don Callis family. Hechicero, one of the great technicians, one of the greatest scientific wrestlers I've ever seen, and somebody who's been winning big matches in AEW, including last night on Wednesday Night Dynamite and many times on Dynamite and Collision, as well as in Ring of Honor, where he's one of the hottest wrestlers, and that is Mr. Hechicero, Rey Hechicero. And I have to say that Hechicero versus Bandito is something I'm really looking forward to. And I also have to say that I'm really excited about the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship match, Athena versus Mina Shirakawa. It's really something that's very exciting to me to have Mina Shirakawa in Ring of Honor and in AEW. She's one of the top international stars, and I'm so happy that she has come over full time with us, and she's going to be facing one of the most dominant champions ever in wrestling, Athena, who is 68-0 in Ring of Honor matches and has been a dominant champion for years and is approaching potentially now just days away from potentially reaching 1,000 days as the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. It's a remarkable milestone that Athena is setting out upon, and it's certainly a number of interesting milestones that Mina Shirakawa looks to stand in her way. Athena coming off an incredible match for the AEW Women's World Championship versus Timeless Toni Storm, who is very close with Mina Shirakawa, who is also the Ring of Honor Interim Women's World Television Champion, and due to the aforementioned injuries, is not able to have the match to crown the undisputed Ring of Honor Women's World TV Champion yet at this time, but we'll talk more about that and a lot of the great matches. Certainly, the two I've mentioned, the two World Championship matches, stand top, and those are four of my very favorite wrestlers to work with, and four of the greatest wrestlers in the world, in my opinion, fighting for those championships when you've got Bandito versus Hechicero and Athena versus Mina Shirakawa tomorrow, and a lot more to be excited about too. And with that, Danny, let's get off with the questions. It's going to be a great show tomorrow, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Absolutely, Tony. We're going to kick things off with Courtney Rice from Women's Wrestling Talk, followed by John Alba with the takedown on SI. Courtney?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hey, I can hear you.
All right. So, hi, Tony. First off, congratulations with last night on Dynamite. I had the chance to attend at the 2300 Arena, and the energy and the fans was very electric. So, I'm very looking forward to the residency. My question is actually towards the Ring of Honor Women's Championship between Athena and Mina Shirokana. As you mentioned, both of these ladies are the top ladies, not just in Ring of Honor, but in AEW. And also, Athena is almost as close on getting 1,000 days. And mostly, my question is going to be towards Mina Shirokana because a lot of people are starting to get to know her because she wrestled in Stardom and AEW, but this is actually the first time she's wrestled in 2300 Arena. And my question to you is, what can fans expect to see out of Mina Shirokana who have never seen her wrestle on television or at the 2300 Arena before?
Mina Shirakawa is one of the most electric wrestlers in the world. She is a great television wrestler, and I also think Mina is an incredible wrestler in person. So for everybody watching this pay-per-view tomorrow, you're going to see somebody who I think is one of the top international wrestlers and one of the people who has adapted best to TV wrestling in AEW, somebody that has become a fan favorite really, really quickly and become a champion in Ring of Honor, the interim women's world TV champion. Red Velvet had been doing a great job fighting abroad here in the U.S. and defending the title in Mexico, competing in top competitions with CMLL and Ring of Honor. And with Mina, she's somebody who's been a top star in, of course, as you mentioned, Stardom. She's competed on top in AEW and now competing on top in Ring of Honor. I think Mina is just absolutely a phenomenal, phenomenal wrestler. And we're really excited to have her. She's been a great signing coming over full time for AEW, and certainly she's somebody I think who would be a great representative of any wrestling company she's a part of. She's got a great grudge too, and I talked about injuries. I'm really grateful that Mina is going to come fight not necessarily at 100% with the injured hand, and after it happened at the hands of Athena, who took out Mina as Mina was trying to apply the figure four leg lock going for the win in that Casino Gauntlet match that actually helped earn Athena that top spot and that shot for the AEW Women's World Championship at the O2 in London. It was as Mina tried to apply the figure four, she got hit with the O face and taken out and pinned. And from that point, she's been out injured, has not been cleared to compete since AEW All In. And we're going to get Mina back, and she's going to come out and try to get revenge against the person who put her out. It was the kind of tactical, opportunistic wrestling that is Athena's calling card. She'll take advantage of any opportunity you give her. She's the very, very best. And we saw Athena, who's been on this incredible dominant run for years and years in Ring of Honor, taking out very top stars in AEW as well and coming that close, just inches away from the AEW Women's World Championship as well. And now she's going for a measure of payback as well because Mina stopped her from stealing the title. Mina cut off Billy Starks from taking that championship. There's been a major rivalry, of course, between Athena and Tony, but now also a major rivalry between Athena and Mina. And Athena going for some major milestones, of course. We know she's 68-0 as the champion, but she's, again, very close to 1,000 days as the champion. And I couldn't imagine a better challenger than Mina Shirakawa, who I think is one of the very, very best wrestlers in the world, to go into the 2300 Arena, this iconic wrestling venue, and for Mina to have her first ever match there against one of the true great champions in pro wrestling, Athena. I just think it's phenomenal, and I'm really, really excited about it. I cannot wait for Death Before Dishonor tomorrow, and one of the reasons I'm so excited is that Mina Shirakawa is coming back from her injury to challenge Athena for the World Championship at Death Before Dishonor in ROH tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks, Courtney. John Alba with the takedown on SI is up next, followed by Amy Nemedy with WrestleJoy. John?
Hey, Tony. Hope your trip from London was good and everything went well over there. Make sure you check out the IKEA near 2300 Arena. It's a good one. So leading up to this show throughout the summer, it felt like Deonna Purazzo was going to be a pretty featured player on Ring of Honor. And looking at her cage match, she kind of disappeared after June, and she hasn't been on AEW since around February. She's been pretty vocal on social media about wanting to get some ring reps. So I was just curious what her status is with either company right now.
It's a fair question. And I like Deonna a lot. I think she's a very talented wrestler, and I think it's good. You know, I do value people trying to get reps in AEW or ROH or internationally. In the summer, we, of course, as you mentioned, we went down to Mexico. We had Grand Slam, Mexico, and we also had a great Global Wars event, and have been doing some wrestling down there. And you know, I thought that show was a tremendous ROH TV, the Global Wars. I thought it was one of the best episodes of the show, and it really set up the Supercard show. Then, as I looked, you know, back, I think Deonna is a really, really great wrestler. I think she had a great, you know, when she came into AEW, she's had a lot of success, and I think she still could find her footing here and do really, really well. It's something that, you know, it's not necessarily, you know, doesn't have to be the kind of thing that is necessarily well, I guess to be honest, I think Deonna had gone down to Mexico, and again, this is something that I think you can grow and learn from, but had an experience down there that wasn't positive with our partners. And then in doing some of the wrestling down there, and having more and more involvement with some of the international partners and things, I think it's really important to look at the fact that AEW this year has been working with some of the top international promotions. And I really like Deonna a lot. And I've been looking at the, you know, frankly, this show as an opportunity to work Deonna back in. And it's like, to say that injuries and circumstances have been challenging would be putting it really, really mildly. There was a match I had planned for actually this pay-per-view that I had called off due to injury. And I really wanted to get Deonna going again, because I think, like, I'm just being really blunt and honest. Like, it's okay if something doesn't go well, and I want to be able to, like, give somebody an opportunity to come back from something. And I think Deonna's a really, really good wrestler, and having one match that doesn't go great shouldn't be you know, the end of a run or change everything. I really appreciated a lot of the stuff Deonna said recently, like positive comments about AEW, and I feel positively about her too. That's why we brought her here. We've been doing a lot of international stuff. We actually, as you said, and we asked the question, John, we just came back from working on a show that involved a lot of the international partners and wrestlers coming in from different promotions. I really like Deonna, and you know, I mentioned earlier on the call that, like, for example, with the TV championship, we have a great TV champion, Red Velvet, who's out injured right now. Again, speaking of injuries, who had gone down and done a great job wrestling abroad and has had really good experiences wrestling abroad. And I know Deonna's had a lot of positive experiences here in America and abroad, but for some of the things I was planning based on how the last time went, I thought that it might not be the right fit for some of the matches I had coming up booked. Then on this show, we've had a series of injuries, and I'll get more into it in depth as we get more into the call, but this is only the second question, and there's been more injuries on the pay-per-view than there have been questions so far on the call. But Deonna's somebody that I really do want to work into the show more, because I think, like, she's got a lot of talent. I think when we started the Pure Championship tournament idea, we had so many injuries in the division that I ended up at Supercard of Honor instead of being able to launch the bracket as I'd originally intended. I then went into the card with the interim TV championship match because Red Velvet wasn't cleared, and people I wanted to use for that, and wouldn't have been able to field the bracket that I wanted. And then the next night, less than 24 hours later, we went out into the Casino Gauntlet match that I mentioned earlier, which was a great match. And I mentioned that Mina got hurt in that match. There were several injuries in that match that affected AEW and Ring of Honor and affected potential championships in both companies. And in this case, we lost about a quarter of the women in the Casino Gauntlet match to injury. And Mina is going to be the first one back, and her first match back is going to be tomorrow. With Deonna, I think Deonna is an excellent, excellent wrestler, and Deonna is going to be in the Pure Championship tournament. I really want to get Deonna going again. I say these things because I think she's a really, really good talent. I think she's a good person. I think she brings a lot of really positive things. And I also really want to stress that, and I think we've demonstrated this at times before, bringing people back, that, if one thing doesn't go perfectly, it's okay that, it's okay to take some time, and then we'll reevaluate. And when the right thing comes up, we'll slot you back in. We had something else come up this week. When I talk about injuries and these things, I got on the glass half full side, I got asked a question that I really, really appreciated at the scrum, and it applied to AEW. And now I'll talk more about ROH and why I think it's, really good, a lot of the things we've been able to do with ROH. I got asked a question about the women's wrestling in AEW this week and why we're having such a good year and why things have changed so much for the better. And I put so much of it on the quality of the wrestlers and the level of the performances. And we've also been really fortunate. We've been on the plus side, very fortunate to have great wrestlers on top that have been able to stay healthy. We have had some major injuries. Like I said, just even coming out of a big match on the biggest show of the year, Women's Casino Gauntlet was a great, great match, but a lot of injuries and big stars unavailable that really affected the booking of AEW, but even more so, probably, to be honest of you, with ROH, where Mina hasn't been able to wrestle until tomorrow, and it's still been figured into the story. With Tony and Athena, where it still makes sense for her to be here, but also with Shuri, who I really wanted to use here in AEW, but also in ROH, and had plans for Shuri, and her first appearance with us was an injury. So things happen, and it's okay. We'll come back from injuries and all kinds of things. In the case of Deonna, I really want to get Deonna in the Pure Championship tournament and get Deonna going. And there's a number of people I want to use in the Pure Championship tournament. And I wrote a bracket for the Pure Championship tournament. And then this past week, I had to hold off on match announcements for this. And it's looking positive. Like I might be able to go, hopefully, with something that looks like the bracket I wanted to use, on top of all the crazy injuries. And you got people you really want to put in this tournament. Deonna's one great example, but there's a bunch of women who are going to be in this tournament I really, really like. And I think this would be a great spot and place for them. But to make this work, it takes a great group of wrestlers. And I want to put on a tournament commensurate with the quality of the roster. And in this case, one of the wrestlers that I really think would add a lot and has been featured as a name that we've associated with it is somebody who's really risen to prominence in AEW also has stepped up in part due to injuries and taken a top place on AEW TV, but has expressed an interest in being in the ROH Pure Championship field. And that's Queen Aminata. And Queen Aminata this week on an independent show had her passport stolen. And then that changed the dynamics of some of the travel and even affected some of the things I was hoping to do last night, which we had a great show. And it looks like Queen Aminata is going to be back for tomorrow now with an emergency passport, which is great because I'm now looking back to go back to another. It's kind of crazy, but there's so much that goes into planning an event, and there's so much goes into planning shows. And when you look at the roster, and you look at the top of the roster, and you look at the very best of the best in pro wrestling, to me, so many of the greatest wrestlers, so many of the greatest names, and the very best stars in wrestling are here in AEW and ROH. And last night, I thought, was a shining example of the very best of what AEW can be. And it's a great venue with great fans, great production. The team did a great job putting the show together, great wrestling, and a great wrestling show, because all those things came together to make it a great show. I think that whether it was AEW All In on the biggest stage, or even the night before in the esports stadium, the great matches and the great moments that we had. Athena versus Thunder Rosa for the Women's World Championship, Bandito versus Takeshita for the ROH World Championship. These great matches we had. It was a smaller environment, but it was red hot and some of the best stuff of the year on Supercard. And taking that now to Philadelphia's 2300 Arena, I'm really, really excited about it. And it's going to be a great event. But the nature of the hierarchy sometimes does lead to where I move things around and will make changes in AEW that also affect ROH. And some of that's happening. So just like in a sports team, the starters in on one unit, let's say, might be playing a lot of minutes throughout the season. Injuries happen, and then somebody else starts playing a large percentage of those minutes, and people step up and opportunities happen. I think that there are a number of people that in the short history of AEW that have really been able to take advantage of opportunities and seize them. And I think this, your question really is a great question, because when you ask about somebody's inactivity, there's so many reasons why it can happen. And in this case, it's a person I really like. And I think it's a great example, because Deonna's been really positive about AEW, and I want to give Deonna a good opportunity. I'm still very interested in Deonna wrestling, and I think she's been really open that she wants to get out there and wrestle more on the independents, and also take advantage of the opportunities in ROH when they come, which, based on the kind of positive sentiment she's been putting out there, and also her wanting to do the work and the body of work she's put up in her career, and what I know she is capable of at her best, then yeah, absolutely, I want to give Deonna opportunities. And, as things change, she's one of those people, as opportunities come up, that she's going to get a chance. I do think here in ROH, it's interesting though, because I have very good intentions in this pure tournament, but certainly the curse of the injuries, whether it's in ROH or even some of the stars in AEW who also compete in ROH who've gotten hurt in AEW, it's definitely changed the dynamic a lot. And, I mentioned Thunder Rosa, who was actually the challenger for the ROH World Championship on the last show. She's been out since the Casino Gauntlet. Shuri, who I had figured in for this event, was also injured. And then, of course, Mina, who's been out since the same Casino Gauntlet match. And I'm really excited to have Mina back. I think Mina versus Athena is a great world championship match. I also am very excited to have Mina back because when Red Velvet's back, I'm excited for them to settle the interim Women's World TV Championship. And then the pure field, I should have, hopefully now, with the great news that we've secured an emergency passport, and Queen Aminata is going to be back for this weekend. And looking down the injury report from what's been a pretty crazy weekend across, the events in England and into last night, I have a pretty good sense now what the bracket's going to be, I hope, fingers crossed. So Deonna will be a part of it. And I think Deonna's somebody that is a good example recently of how to conduct yourself in the locker room, and even if you're not necessarily featured on TV at that point, being very positive in the sentiment of the company, and also expressing an interest in going out and wrestling and competing and taking advantage of the opportunities to go out there and get in the ring and make the most of them, and valuing that. So no, I have very positive things to say, but also I wanted to use it as a platform to talk about people, whether it's for injuries or in this case, circumstances around the roster that have really been doing a good job of conducting themselves and being an ambassador for the company. And with the event coming up, I do want to obviously address that, and I'm glad you brought it up, because the incredibly large volume of injuries that has happened around the women's division, and now some of the people who have made returns, is going to lead to some exciting announcements around that, and settling some of these championship plans we've had for a while, and working some names in that I'm a big fan of. Deonna is a good example. Another person I want to bring up, who I also am going to feature in the pure championship field, who I really like a lot, is the Professor Serena Deeb. I really like Serena. I actually went over to England to watch a match of Serena's in Rev Pro, and the way she conducted herself. She was announced there as representing AEW on the card. She had a great match, and the way she conducted herself as a veteran in the locker room, giving advice to young wrestlers, but also as a great representative of AEW. Again, giving the example of somebody wanting to go out, even when they have been kind of waiting for the roster to heal up and to maximize their opportunities. I thought that she's been tremendous, and Serena is somebody else I really want to get going in this field. And now, as things are getting kind of settled with injuries and circumstances and passport recovery, we're well on our way. So thanks for asking, John, and I appreciate it. And good luck in your New York sports throughout the rest of the year.
Thanks, John, and thanks, Tony. We are already at 2:30, but I do want to make sure that we get a few more questions in to ensure that we're covering everything for Death Before Dishonor.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. We usually do a longer call anyway. So if people want to stay on, I mean, I thought, frankly, knowing how verbose I am, 30 minutes was quite an ambitious allocation of time. So especially given all the things we have to talk about. So please, with it, I got plenty of time for everyone here to get their questions in.
Absolutely, Tony. Well, Amy Nemedy with WrestleJoy is up next, followed by Dominic D'Angelo with Brass Ring Media. Amy, go ahead.
Hi, Tony. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're great.
Hi. So I'd like to talk about the ROH Men's World Championship match against Bandito and Hechicero. One of the many things that sets AEW apart in the wrestling world is its showcase of the dynamic luchadors on its roster. Bandito has an incredible run this year, just becoming AEW World Tag Team Champions with Brody King, and of course is the ROH World Champion. And you alluded to the match earlier at Supercard with Takeshita, which many consider to be a possible match of the year. Hechicero has also become a dominant figure with the Don Callis family, wreaking havoc against everyone he steps in the ring with, much to the delight of AEW and ROH fans. Can you elaborate on the dynamics of Bandito and Hechicero heading into this championship match at Death Before Dishonor?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we saw at the end of our prior pay-per-view at Supercard, the conclusion of the show, Hechicero arrived, and Hechicero came onto the scene and has been, against a variety of top opponents in ROH, really a dominant competitor, also in AEW. And Hechicero is part of a group that is, to me, one of the most elite groups I've ever seen in wrestling, and that is this current iteration of the Don Callis family. Hechicero is at his very, very best. He really rose to prominence in my opinion, on the American television scene after becoming a real top name in CMLL and one of the top respected names in Lucha Libre and international wrestling. He came here to America and became a big TV name in part, and got off to a great start with a great match against Bryan Danielson on AEW Collision that got people really talking. And that match has certainly created some buzz that now has shown it's a lot more than just buzz. It's really great substance. And this is one of the top wrestlers in the world, Hechicero. And looking at how dominant the Don Callis family is and all the championships in the Don Callis family right now, you'd have to say that Hechicero coming back to a Don Callis family that is dominating around the world of wrestling, including the AEW Unified Championship, bringing together the Continental title that Kazuchika Okada has held control over for such a long time and retained through the Continental Classic, in maintaining that he is probably the greatest tournament wrestler of all time now, equaling Masahiro Chono's majors count with 5 majors, as Masahiro Chono, 5-time G1 winner, Kazuchika Okada with 4 G1s and a Continental Classic, and certainly the dominant run in AEW and unifying it with the International Championship that was held by his greatest rival as a part of one of the greatest rivalries ever in pro wrestling, something that I think is really one of the great sports rivalries of my lifetime, certainly to me, in my opinion, Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada. And for that match to take place at AEW All In was such a monumental moment for the company itself and for all of us. And certainly Kazuchika Okada stands atop the world of pro wrestling in many ways, but also you have so much gold around the Don Callis family now, as we have Kyle Fletcher, this incredible TNT champion, one of the greatest rising stars in pro wrestling, somebody who here in ROH came up and held the ROH World TV Championship. I would love to have a defense of the ROH World TV Championship on this show, but again, the rash of injuries that's happened. Nick Wayne will be back very soon enough that I think it would be rash to do an interim championship match in this case. But Nick Wayne will be back very soon, but I'm still working on the timetable and some of the medical around it. So I'm leaving my options open on the interim, but he'll be back soon enough that I think it's the kind of thing where I definitely would not consider stripping him of the championship. And I do think Kyle Fletcher, it's amazing to look how far he's come over the years. This is somebody who's held championships in ROH tag team and also as the world TV champion began to reinvent himself on the road to becoming one of the top wrestlers in the world, and now the TNT champion in the face of TNT AEW media agreement, which is the lifeblood of AEW and in many ways a large part of the wrestling economy, and certainly a great tradition of wrestling that goes back decades, that he is the face of. And of course, Kazuchika Okada, Kyle Fletcher, but also the Alpha Konosuke Takeshita, who went out there in the main event scene and talking about the big events and the majors. Now himself a G1 Climax winner, going face to face with Okada last night, and how exciting this all is to see it unfold. But certainly Konosuke Takeshita went out and had one of the greatest main events I've seen. And after that incredible main event, Takeshita versus Bandito, who I have a lot to say about as well, Takeshita went out there, gave it everything he had one of the greatest matches, one of the greatest performances from one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. And at the end, Hechicero came out, and Bandito still wanted more. But I think Hechicero bringing that championship back to the Don Callis family would make perfect sense. Hechicero is one of the very greatest wrestlers. This man is truly a wizard, and as I've said, I think since he burst onto the scene, he's continued to rise and rise, and he is very much at home in the Don Callis family with the top wrestlers in the world. And then talking about Bandito, this is somebody that I think is one of the top wrestlers in the sport today, and now holds championships in AEW and Ring of Honor, and is a world champion in multiple promotions, and is one of the fastest rising and most impressive young stars in pro wrestling. Bandito is somebody that I really, really like. I think Bandito is a tremendous talent, and I really would recommend to anybody who has not seen his title match versus Takeshita to watch it. But there's also so many great title matches from Bandito, whether it was against Mascara Dorada. I spoke earlier about Global Wars. What a great event that you can watch for free on YouTube, or of course on watchroh.com, but also everybody can watch it for free. And this was an incredible event. And certainly Mascara Dorada versus Bandito is one of my favorite matches of the year as well. And then to have Bandito teaming with Hologram and taking on Mystico and Mascara Dorada. What an amazing match. Bandito versus Mystico. So many great matches throughout the year for Bandito. And now he's a part of Brodito. And we saw Brodito go against the Don Callis family last night. And Brodito, World Tag Team Champions, they've been so impressive. But there have been times where it seems like Hechicero potentially could have Bandito's number. And it's something that we have to watch for tomorrow on this event. And I'm so excited to see the shootout between Hechicero and Bandito. And along those lines, what a tremendous vignette that we put together for Hechicero versus Bandito, and so much credit to the production team. You know, I had kind of conceived this, seeing how it came off after we had the end of Supercard with that stare down, and I thought it would be such a perfect vignette to put together, playing off the history of some of the great vignettes we've done with Bandito, and also the big showdown coming up between Hechicero and Bandito tomorrow at Death Before Dishonor. I think these are two of the top wrestlers. I think their styles fit together very well, and I'm very excited about this huge world championship match, and I think there's a lot of excitement around this event tomorrow, and it's going to be a great environment in the 2300 arena for what should be a great championship match.
Thank you so much, Tony. We're going to wrap with two final questions. Dominic D'Angelo with Brass Ring Media is up next, followed by Bill Pritchard with WrestleZone. Dominic, go ahead.
Tony, can you hear me okay, man?
I hear you great, man.
Okay, hey, awesome. Yeah, congrats on the Dynamite last night. I thought the presentation and the aesthetic of it all was one of the best, I think the best presentation wrestling promotion has done at the 2300 arena, from the cage mesh and everything. It looked really great. I did want to follow up, former ROH champion, about the status of former ROH world champion Chris Jericho. Are there plans to bring him back to the company?
Well, it's a great question. I certainly could talk for a long time. I mentioned earlier being verbose, and I have to say Chris Jericho is one of the greatest and most important people ever in AEW, and has been a great two-time ROH world champion. For somebody that's won 9 world championships in the sport of pro wrestling, Chris Jericho is it's incredible to say, but has achieved so much in so many different promotions. And when you talk about him, you could talk about companies all over the world, but certainly we wouldn't be as fortunate to be in this position. I would never be in where I am in AEW without Chris Jericho, nor would we be in a position where I could have bought ROH. So I'm very grateful to Chris. I think the world of Chris, and I would love to have Chris back. You know, and certainly he's been a great star for us since the very beginning of AEW, and then here in ROH as well, which, you know, as we talk about Death Before Dishonor and the great ROH events, Chris has come in and been involved in some great memorable matches. I just got done talking about Bandito, and I could talk for days about great Chris Jericho matches and memories. Last night we had a reunion of Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. They both had their great matches and altercations with Chris Jericho, and he's been a huge part of both of their careers and in the launch of AEW and where we are right now. I have so much respect for Chris, and I think the world of him. And it's the first time I ever set foot in the 2300 arena was actually Chris's last night in ECW, and it was very important to me because I've been a fan of Chris since I was a very young kid. since I was 12 years old. I would count Chris among my very favorite wrestlers for the past 30 years, and I'm very fortunate to work with him. So if and when the time presents itself, hopefully, would love to have Chris back. And I think the world of him, and Chris Jericho is always in the highest of standing with me and with AEW and ROH, where he has been a great champion, a great ambassador, a great leader, and a great friend to all of us. And Chris Jericho is a huge part of our companies here. So thanks for asking.
Thanks, Dominic, and thanks, Tony. We're going to wrap up with Bill Pritchard from WrestleZone.com. Bill? Hey, Bill.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So I wanted to ask about the union protests that started outside yesterday. I know this seems like a venue issue, but obviously it complicates things because they're kind of encouraging people to boycott AEW and ROW shows. Or, I'm sorry, ROH shows. I just wanted to see if you had any feedback on what's going on. And
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
All righty. Well, Tony, thank you so much for your time. We are now at the end of our
I can end
time.
on a better question than that.
Okay. Why don't we finish up with Kevin Kellum with Sportskeeda then?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you for the time, Tony. Tony, what is the status of Ring of Honor as a weekly televised product? Obviously, a lot of fans can reach it through Honor Club and are engaged, but what is the ability to get Ring of Honor to a broader audience on a different platform that maybe could be seen as a little bit more accessible to more people engaged with it, the same way they have with AEW on Warner Brothers Discovery's platform?
Well, I really appreciate you asking. And we have this incredible partnership that you just mentioned with Warner Brothers, Discovery, and AEW. And it's the lifeblood of AEW, and I really think it's a huge part of the pro wrestling economy. And when we look back at, for a lot of us who've been following wrestling for so much of our lives, for those of us that have were fortunate to be around for another period of time, another wrestling era, and certainly they were great boom times for pro wrestling. I mean, you know, for me, my childhood involved a lot of wrestling on Turner, on TBS and TNT, and TBS and TNT have been a lifeblood of pro wrestling for the better part of my life, and I am so grateful to them and value the relationship so much. So I'm very grateful for what we're able to do with AEW, Wednesday Night Dynamite, Saturday Night Collision, and of course the great partnership now with all the great events that are available to watch on HBO Max, in addition to TBS and TNT live on Wednesdays and Saturdays, including Coast to Coast this Saturday on TNT. And I have to say that, of course, there have been at times talks about how to integrate ROH, and it would have to be something that makes sense for everyone. The AEW rights are really, really valuable, and at the level that we operate with AEW, which is one of the top sports media rights deals in the world for TV content that is ranked among the very top shows on cable and is now also simulcast on one of the greatest streaming platforms of all time with the very best content in the world. And in order to have another product in the market that I also control the media rights for, it doesn't need to necessarily be the AEW deal, but for me to do something different, it has to make sense on the scale and for our partners, because the Warner Brothers Discovery partnership fuels everything. It allows me to maintain the level of this incredible roster of wrestlers, the production, and keep both companies aflush with great wrestlers and top events in top venues for the very greatest fans in the world. And I am interested in that, and it's something we actively continue to talk about. And we've had offers at times to do ROH TV, but I didn't think they made sense in the big picture because the picture is so big for AEW. I mean, when you're doing contracts that have hundreds of millions of dollars in media rights at stake, it's anything you do on top of that. Sure, maybe it's a cherry on top, but it has to fit in the big picture. And that's what I've always been looking for. So I'm interested in doing it. It could happen anytime. Somebody might open the news or X or any platform where they get wrestling news and find that we have gotten a deal because it might make sense, but it's completely hypothetical. It's not imminent. And I think that it would be very beneficial for ROH, but it would have, and I would really enjoy doing it. I have really enjoyed doing ROH TV shows. I do really enjoy doing it. I really like putting them together. And when we put together showcase events, whether it's Global Wars or, we recently put an episode on YouTube that's a free episode that was a special episode that didn't really necessarily cannibalize because we still put a good show on Honor Club that week. But in addition, just put a nice, fun, free show together for the fans that you can watch. And it did great viewership. It was almost like the slot that AEW Dark and Dark Elevation had occupied in terms of putting these great free matches up as like a bonus ball for everyone. And it was really well received. And I think we could see more of that maybe at times because our partners have been okay with that, and it's not anything that's cannibalizing what we're doing with AEW on TNT, TBS, and Max. But that partnership is the lifeblood of everything we do. So I don't want to do anything that would go against Warner Brothers Discovery ever. I never want to do that because they're great partners to us, and that's what fuels this whole thing. So thanks for asking that. I do think if the right circumstances came up and it made sense in the framework of the AEW Warner Brothers relationship, then potentially, definitely I would like to do it. And I would really love to sink my teeth into that. I think it would be really good for a lot of the wrestlers, certainly, and featured more. And it would be great for our production team, and there'd be more spots here. And I think it would be a really fun show, and I want to do it. It would be a lot of fun. And it's just really making a deal that makes sense for everyone because, again, there have been opportunities, but, to the ROH deal, even though AEW is for sure in a position where AEW is the bigger promotion by far right now, the deal would have to be something that makes sense in the scope of the AEW deal and not be so far off what we do with AEW, if that makes sense. Thanks for asking. That's a great question.
Thanks, Kevin, and thank you, Tony. Now we are at the end of our time. So we'll be distributing an audio recording to all attendees shortly, and we thank you for being a part of today's call. Looking forward to having you join us for Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor tomorrow night in Philadelphia. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, Tony, for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.